The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
But this morning was like something out of a crime thriller. Police swooped shortly after dawn, took several FIFA high rollers away to the station, accused of corruption.
FIFA is like The Sopranos, but with worse people.
But what we won't hear are the muffled screams of the men who died building this dream.
Every 4 years, football fans, no, everyone, is blessed with the largest sporting event in the world, where countries face off to showcase their national talent, with the best players from each country taking pride and honour in being able to represent their country on the pitch. With the aim to reach the finals and take home the trophy. And that trophy is for FIFA's World Cup. Us as viewers get to watch football at its highest level as we gaze into our TVs, our laptops, our smart devices, and those of us that are fortunate enough to go watch it at the stadiums live get to sing songs wishing our national team would just take that shot and score and maybe take it all the way home. The World Cup has the ability to bring together people from a multitude of backgrounds to one place to enjoy the beautiful sport that is football. I still remember it like it was yesterday, playing the South Africa FIFA World Cup game. Now the 2022 World Cup will be held in Qatar, which is actually the first time that the World Cup will be held in the Middle East, and has a start date of the 19th of November. So apart from a change in start date, you wouldn't actually bat an eye on what's going on. But unfortunately, everything that glitters ain't fish scale, or should I say gold, as this is the actual idiom. And this is because FIFA, the organisation behind the World Cup, has its own dark secrets, with tales of bribery, fraud, and even a mafioso style setup organisation. Now in particular, I want to touch on the bribery that occurs when a country wants to win the bid to host the World Cup. But before we get there, it's essential to understand why would a country in the first place bribe FIFA to host the World Cup? What is in it for them? What benefits do they get? What prosperity does a country get from hosting the World Cup? For starters, I want to use the most recent World Cup as a reference point, and that would be the 2018 World Cup hosted in Russia. Now, just looking at this from a financial lens, they were able to bring in $13.5 billion into the economy alongside 220,000 jobs. And with this injection into the economy, this provided economic growth. Alongside the financial gain previously mentioned, by a country hosting the World Cup, this can provide the country with great recognition, which results in having a more positive impact or outlook on their image. Now, with this being said, this has a direct link into it becoming more established as a tourist attraction or tourist place to be, which then comes full circle back into the financial gain that can come from hosting the World Cup. Finally, it helps a country embody the culture aligned with the great sport that is football, overall helping with its perception. This also links to it being able to disperse the feel-good energy that comes from hosting the World Cup during and after to the citizens of the host country. This all reigns true with the 2010 South Africa World Cup, as South Africa were able to add 0.4% onto their GDP, alongside providing 66,000 jobs through the creation of new stadiums. Despite the good mention around the previously hosted World Cup, just looking at South Africa in particular, some of the evidence shows that this came at a cost of their integrity, as they bribed Jack Warner, one of the ex-co members of FIFA, in return for votes to win the bid to host the World Cup. Now, EXCO is short for the Executive Committee of FIFA, which consisted of 22 men around the time when Qatar won the bid. And each member of the committee holds a vote on what country will eventually win the bid to host the FIFA World Cup. So with previous allegations of bribery and fraud, we start to question other host winners of the World Cup. And just looking at our most current host winner, how did Qatar win the bid to host the World Cup? So some people may ask, wasn't it possible for Qatar to win the bid fair and square? And of course they could have. But when you understand who they were competing against, it starts to paint a clearer picture of why it maybe just wasn't that in this instance. Now, Qatar were competing against the likes of the US, South Korea, Australia and Japan, who all were looking at general infrastructure, so ranging from accommodation, travel, appropriate stadiums, were all way ahead of Qatar at that moment in time. Especially if we're looking at the US, who had 25 appropriate soccer is what they call it over there, but let's call it football stadiums, in comparison to at the time Qatar's 0 appropriate stadiums. This is accompanied by the vast amount of desolate land within Qatar, making travel infrastructure hard to implement, alongside the scorching hot weather across the year, so that football or the World Cup wouldn't be played in mid-year like normal, but actually have to be pushed out later in the year to November. So with all the information presented, it seems more clear that in an ideal scenario, with all things being equal, that Qatar would have been very unlikely to win the bid to host the World Cup. But through being able to pay their way, they were able to obtain the golden ticket that once upon a time would have seemed unattainable. Now, the bribery used to obtain the golden ticket previously mentioned consisted of cash payments, gas deals, and even buying off football clubs like PSG, just to name a few. But as we all know, crime does not pay. So many of the members associated with these allegations were then convicted and were forced to do the time or pay for their crimes. So let's move on to understanding current events and to get clarity on where we are at now. Well, the World Cup will still be hosted in Qatar. FIFA are now reformed with a new CEO and new corporate governance. And the US finally got their spot by being able to host the 2026 World Cup.
So we have a winner for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The member associations of Canada, Mexico and USA have been selected by the FIFA Congress.
But in reality, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. So only time will really tell if FIFA are the organisation that love football as much as us and are really in it for the love of the game. As a final note, despite all the negative headlines and controversy surrounding or associated with Qatar hosting the World Cup, ranging from topics I didn't speak about, like the sustainability of the event or the poor working conditions of workers, and I do feel heartfelt for families that were negatively impacted by this. Although Qatar have clearly taken the wrong steps to get to what I'm about to say, I do believe that they were generally trying to provide us with the best viewing experience, the best World Cup that they can provide. So with all of this being said, I believe it's in our best interest to dissociate the World Cup, the football as a whole, from all the politics surrounded, with everything that's going on. And take this time to enjoy the sport, enjoy the games with friends, families, and root for our country, our team to go all the way and win, bring it home. And if you wanted to make a start to taking it all the way, then like, subscribe, And if you like this content, of course, then, you know, if you see me in a pub watching one of the games or something, then definitely buy me a drink. And, you know, until next time, take care and peace.